Grab your glasses, everybody. It's time for a Moonshine Safari.
All right, welcome everybody back to Moonshine Safari. This is episode 2.
Episode 2
of our new podcast. Hope you guys liked episode 1. Remember, this is just kind of a new thing for us. We're not exactly sure what we're doing, but hopefully if you guys hang on with us and as we move along down the road on our Moonshine Safari, hopefully
it'll gel.
Yeah, hopefully things will get a little easier and things will seem like they flow better. So thank you so much for showing up. So that being said, we are all over social media.
Everywhere on social media.
Everywhere on social media. We are everywhere, and you can reach us at...
We are at Moonshine Safari for Twitter. We are on Facebook. You can find us Moonshine Safari. We are on YouTube, Moonshine Safari. We are on Instagram at Moonshine Safari. Everywhere Moonshine Safari is, that's where you will find us. Also, online at moonshinesafari.com, you can also find us. So anywhere you type in Moonshine Safari, we should come up easily.
All right. Thank you so much. So if you want to contact us, you can go through any of those social media outlets. And what we'd like to see in the future is we would like to do some shout outs, maybe some anniversaries, birthdays.
Right. We want a big community. So if you guys have, like Josh is saying, if you're having a big anniversary coming up, important day, please send us that information. If we have time, we definitely want to do some shout outs to you guys.
Sure. And also we might do some focus on or do a spotlight on a story. Maybe you guys have some funny marriage or relationship stories that we might want to spotlight. We're going kind of through our relationship from beginning to where we are now.
I am a big believer that everybody has a story, and I think everybody's story is fascinating once you get into it. So if you guys have something to share with us, we'd love to hear it.
Sure, and we'd like to spotlight that out on our podcast. And of course, we will keep names if you'd like private. We'll keep that kind of stuff private. But if you would like to do that or share that, please send the story or anything that you would like to do that at any of the social media places that you can find Moonshine Safari, because we are monitoring all of those, and we'll make sure that we get that. And we will be in contact with you if we choose your story or your anniversary to monitor. Okay, we'll let you know about that. Okay.
And also on our website, anything that we've talked about from drinks to music that we're listening to and stuff like that, you should be able to go find there too, because we're going to be highlighting that after the podcast.
Yes, and we also like to take tips too. So if you guys know of or hear of new moonshine distilleries, or you have a group or a musician or something you would like for us to check out, I can't promise we can get everything, but we certainly will try, and we would appreciate that too if you want to send that kind of information to us as well. Okay. What do you think?
That sounds great.
All right. Well, we got a lot to get to today. As usual, we are going to pick up our relationship story later on in the podcast. If you haven't heard or if you haven't started listening, I would suggest you go back to podcast 1 and listen to podcast 1, and that's where we begin our story. And so we're not going to go back and go over that. So go back to podcast 1, listen to that, and come back to this one. As later in this podcast, we're going to pick up that story. We'll say that we're going to pick up where we left off, which was we just started dating.
Right.
Okay. And but right now, we're going to talk about the music that we're listening to. All right. So this week, Dina, what music have you been listening to? You listening to anything new or old stuff? What you doing?
Well, Josh, as you know, you are the one that seems to be more adventurous with all of the new stuff, at least new for us. I always seem to be the one that goes back to the past. So I have been listening to Huey Lewis because I was in the grocery store the other day and one of his songs came on. I thought, wow, I have not heard this song in the longest time. And I got home, and that's all I wanted to listen to for a while because I just think his music's great and it's fun. And
I can vouch for
who
that.
doesn't like that?
We listened to Huey Lewis for a couple of nights in a row, and I like Huey Lewis. I remember in the 80s, I guess 80s, had a cassette tape of Heart of Rock and Roll, and so what would you say your favorite Huey Lewis song is, if you had to say?
I think I'm Happy to Be Stuck With You is probably one of the funnest ones I like.
Aww. Isn't that just appropriate? Well, mine I think would be Bad is Bad.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun. See, the thing is, I like a lot of them. That's the thing. So it's like, I don't know.
Sometimes you don't realize that you really like a group until you re-listen to them, or you actually, it's almost like you rediscover the group. You used to listen to them a long time ago, and you never thought, why did you ever stop listening? But there are so many good groups out there. There's so many good artists, so much music out there to involve in. So, well, Dina, thank you. Huey Lewis. So a lot of you guys who are, I guess we should say, I guess we never really said in podcast one about our ages, but we kind of figured you could figure it out. If we've been married for 25 years, you're probably thinking we're probably close in our 40s or 50s, and you would be right. All right, so I'm not going to tell you exactly when, but let's just say the answer is yes. That's where
we are 80s kids.
Yes.
So there you go.
We're 80s kids. That's right. There you go. So Huey Lewis was big. Okay, so I'll tell you what I'm listening to. I am listening to Chris Stapleton,
which is amazing.
And I know some of you might be thinking, "Oh, well, that seems really like a fad." No, he's pretty amazing.
He's really talented.
Yes, he's hot right now. And has been for the past few years. If you haven't checked out Chris Stapleton, please do. I mean,
it's very versatile.
Oh yeah, he's before he started his solo career, he was lead man in a bluegrass band called Steel Drivers, and you can find them on YouTube, Tidal, Spotify, all those different places, and that's some pretty great bluegrass if you like the bluegrass sound, and he's the lead singer. And then I think it was 2010 he started going solo, but he's been writing a bunch of songs. The one I'm listening to right now is his new album called From a Room Volume 2. And there's some great songs. I'm just going to run down. Millionaire's on there. Hard Living. That's one of my favorites. Scarecrow in the Garden. That's a good one. Nobody's Lonely Tonight. Trying to Entangle My Mind. I would say between Simple Song and that one would be my two favorites on this album. Midnight Train to Memphis. He did that one with the Steel Drivers as well.
Okay.
So you can hear that one in a bluegrass kind of version. Drunkard's Prayer, and then Friendship. It's a great album. It's great. So please check it out.
I'm a big fan of the harmonies.
Oh, yeah. His wife,
yes,
who sings the harmonies
which is
with
awesome.
him. They just had twins. I think everybody's doing fine. But check him out. I like him because he's not the typical, what you can say, bubblegum country or whatever you want to call it now, pop country. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. He seems to be, he's very bluesy. He's very traditional.
You said he's traveling with.
But he pushes too.
You said he's traveling with Marty Stewart.
Coming up, yeah, he's going to be traveling with doing
Which
a tour
would
with
just
Marty
be
Stewart.
Amazing.
And I think Brent Cobb. I'm not sure who that is, and maybe I'll check him out. But we saw Marty Stewart.
It was incredible.
When was that? That was
December.
Yeah, maybe December at the Musical Instrument Museum
here in
Arizona. And that was a phenomenal show. And we'll talk about Marty Stewart. We'll probably feature Marty Stewart on an upcoming podcast because we are both fans of Marty Stewart.
He's hugely talented.
And his superlatives. Yeah, a lot of fun that concert was. Really good. So, yeah, check that out. So, Huey Lewis and Chris Stapleton. And you can kind of hear, I mean, we both like both of those groups, but you can kind of see the diversity in what we're listening to at the same time, which is kind of cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for that. And now let's move on to, well, I've got a little funny story for you. Joke. This is what we call like the funny of the week or whatever. And it's always has to do with some kind of relationship or marital something. It doesn't always have to be that, but most of the time it is. So, here's the it could be, you could almost say that this is a bit of marital wisdom. All right. So arguing with the wife is a lot like trying to read the terms of use on the internet. You know that, Dina?
It's true.
In the end, you just got to give up and go, I agree.
So we just got to overwhelm you with the amount of verbiage.
That's right. Just keep scrolling,
I agree.
and click, I agree.
There you go.
That's all you got to do, right? So, but careful what they sneak into those, the small writing.
Devil's in the details.
That's right. So, okay, well, let's move on. Dina's got our next segment, which is the peeve of the week. Dina, what is your peeve of the week?
So I understand that whether you have been sick or even sometimes asthma or allergies or whatever it happens to be, everyone gets a cough occasionally, and no one expects that not happen.
Right.
My problem is people who refuse to cover their mouths, okay? And I'm talking not pretending to cover your mouth. Cover your mouth. I mean, for me, if I'm especially around anybody and I'm coughing, I actually will put my face in my shirt because I don't think it's fair to share my spit with everyone.
And I will tell you, I must have interject here too. And that is a family thing that Dina's whole family does, except for your father. But you do it, your mother does it, your sisters do it. Now our children do it. Our children are in their 20s. And they both, whenever they sneeze or cough, and then we have one girl and one boy. I guess we should say one woman and one man because they're in the 20s now.
Crazy.
But I know. They open their shirt up and they cough or sneeze in their shirt. I don't do that.
Why do you need to share it?
Well, I understand, but I don't want to sneeze or cough on my chest.
And I've actually had people tell me, "Oh, I'm not contagious." I don't care. I don't want your spit. I don't care if you're contagious. It's not necessarily about that. Cover your mouth.
I will tell you this too, and Dina's experiencing and talking to me that unfortunately she's had the poor experience of having someone walk into her office while she was eating her lunch,
Eating my food.
and cough
Not even
openly
pretend to cover your mouth.
all over the desk where her food was, and you had to throw it out.
Yeah.
You had to throw it out.
Yep.
So please, people, just have a little bit of sensitivity to others. If you have a cough, cover your mouth. Carry a handkerchief or a bandana or something and cover your mouth. Please, do us all a big favor. Okay? Because you don't want my spit, and I don't want yours.
Yep. We don't want to share, and that's okay.
So that's the peeve of the week. Cover your mouth. Okay? And just to cover, and this isn't her peeve of the week, but maybe I'll do a peeve. Has to do with mouth. Is chewing with your mouth open. Okay?
That's your thing.
We'll talk about that some other day. Okay, now let's move on to our next segment. Is the pro tip of the week. A pro tip of the week is also from Dina. Dina, what is your pro tip of this week?
So many times when I have people come to talk to me about getting mortgages, like I said, a lot of that is getting their credit ready to buy a house. But this applies across the board, and you don't have to be in the market to buy a house for this to work. If you find that you have collections on your credit, it happens to many people over time. I would not necessarily recommend getting a credit repair company because a lot of times you end up having to do the legwork on the back end anyway. So my suggestion is you get that information, you call the people that are putting the collections on your credit, and you try to settle. If it's old paper, meaning if it's an old collection, a lot of times they can settle for even as little as 10 cents on the dollar. So you might be able to pay much, much less to get these items settled. And if you can get them at a zero balance, even if you settle them, the good things on your credit will start to have a better impact because there's no more litter. You need to get rid of the litter on your credit, so settle the collections if you can. Now, when you call to settle these collections, you never offer them what they're saying that you owe them right up front. You can say, look, I see that I have some money that I owe you. Gosh, I know I owe you $500, but really right now I only have $200. Do not give them any money until you have something in writing that says they will accept whatever it is you're going to send them, because oftentimes you will send in that money and they will not settle the debt. You have to have something in writing up front saying how much they're going to take, and then go ahead and settle the debt.
Settle the debt, right.
But like I said, settling the debt is a big deal because it makes the good things that you're doing on your credit have a better impact.
And one thing you just need to, I'm going to just interject something real quick there when you're talking about settling collections. I think what happens to some people is they get overwhelmed. They don't want to, or they look at themselves and go, oh, I'm in collections. And then they think they can just put their head in the sand and not deal with it. That's just going to cause everything to get worse. If you make, and everybody makes mistakes, and you miss a payment or something, or something jumps on your credit, or we all have those times.
Medical is a big one.
Right. We have those times in our lives that, my goodness, things just happen and we don't have money, or we can't pay our bills. Sometimes that happens. And unfortunately, you go to collections. You really just need to make contact with them and try and handle it. Ignoring it's just going to make it be worse. And I think Dina has a great idea of at least trying to negotiate with them, because there's nowhere that says you can't negotiate. And
Correct.
a lot of times they'll take what they can get, because most of the time they're not going to get anything.
Especially if it's old, they don't think they're
Right.
going to get anything.
Right. Old collections. Right. So if you can settle it, and that will help you, that'll relieve stress out of your life and help your credit score. So great tip, Dina. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And you guys, if you have any questions about things like that, you can put those also in the comments. Just hit #ProTip, and we can go right to those right off the bat, and we can answer those. And Dina can give you any type of information or counseling. Not really. It's not counseling. It's more like
Just my ideas on what I've seen work over time.
Right. So. All right. Well, thank you so much for that pro tip of the week. Now, I know this is what you've all been waiting for. We're going to pick up our story, our marriage story. Last podcast, we ended when we just started to date. I had asked Dina out. We decided we were going to go out on a date. We went and saw Couch Trip.
Couch Trip.
I don't remember. I'm sure we went to eat, because we always did that, but I don't know what we did.
I don't remember that part of it.
Did something really cheap, and probably something cheap, a burger or something.
Probably.
I
remember you gave me a rose. I remember that.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
You brought me like
on
a
the
flower,
first date.
like the kind that you would get at Circle K.
Yeah, like
that were in the plastic.
Had like the little
Yeah.
the ones that they'd have this like sitting there on the counter, and I probably had to stop and get gas.
Probably.
Before I came to pick you up.
Well, I was far from you.
Yes. Well, it seemed far.
It seemed far at the time, anyway.
That's true. Now, I'm trying to remember. Was I driving the Ford?
Okay, I'm sure you were.
Okay, so I had in college, I drove a 1978 Dove Gray Ford LTD 4-door with the bench seat.
It was a giant car.
It was a land yacht. It was huge. Check those out.
It was just
It was big. It was big. But that was the car that I drove all through college. And so we would have gone and had dinner and then a movie. And I remember, and I think we spoke about this in the last podcast, that I was very embarrassed about the movie.
Yes.
Because of some of the topics that it talked about. And if I remember correctly, I did not kiss you good night. I gave you a hug.
I think we hugged that night.
We hugged. Mm-hmm. We hugged. That's right.
That's correct.
Partially is because I was a coward, and I was afraid, and I was afraid of rejection. I mean, I didn't want you to say no. And number two, I had never really kissed a girl before. I mean, kissed like, yeah, but like really passionately kiss someone? No. Not that a first date is that kind of kiss, but I was very, how should I say it?
Well, it was new.
Well, it was new, but I was not very experienced.
I mean, to be fair, it was new for both of us.
So, well, I didn't.
You didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
I kept that to myself for a long time.
I didn't know that
it
you
was
had
true.
not really had a boyfriend either.
I had a lot of bravado about it and tried to pretend like I really knew all the things.
Well, yeah, I did not. So, so we started dating, and which was kind of interesting because us both not well. For me, I can speak for me. I had no idea. Like any other relationship, you're all Twitter pated. You're all excited. You want to spend every waking moment with each other. Every minute that you get.
And over the top serious right off the bat.
Yeah, that kind of came from both of our growing up in insecurities.
Yeah, and that was just age. I mean, I was, 15.
Right. I was 17.
So just, the awkward 15-year-old, silliness.
Yeah. So, you want to talk about the initial worry being from your cultural background and mine?
Well, I mean, so I was from this part of the country, which is, southwestern United States. He was from the southeastern part of the United States. And I was concerned that I'm half Mexican. I was concerned that maybe his family wouldn't like me because of that. To be fair, that was a stereotype even on my part to think, oh, he's from the South, maybe they won't like me. I mean, that's...
Well, to be fair, my mother would not have liked you. It wouldn't have mattered. It would have mattered more. Well, I could say she probably accepted you a little more if you were white, like all white. And we'll talk about the relationship between my mother and my wife as the podcasts go on. But I would say in the beginning, yes, that was a concern from at least from my mom's perspective, not from my father.
But I also think it didn't help that I had sort of an edgy personality with your mom. I was not a shrinking violet type, and I think in her mind, she might have thought she would have preferred that. But what's funny about that is that's not who your mom was either.
Oh, no. My mom was, and I think that's probably why in the beginning it was difficult because as the cliche goes, you're very much...
Personality-wise, we're not that,
like my mom, in that you're very strong-willed, you're very opinionated.
Mm-hmm.
Not afraid to say what you're thinking. So now the difference is you don't have my mom's temper. I got that, but you don't have that. But no, my mom, she was concerned about that, I guess, which is weird.
Well, there was this old school thought back in the day that if you had children of two different races, that they were going to have a harder time and stuff like that. That kind of thinking, I think for the most part, most normal people now don't think along those lines.
Right, but if you could see Dina, you would see that she's not... I would say that you're dark in your complexion, but most people would probably not look at you and say Mexican.
Growing up, no one ever knew exactly. Like, I would know people for quite a bit of time, and then one day they would go, "What's your background?" Like, they would wonder about what my racial background was, because you wouldn't necessarily peg it in any direction.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sort of generic.
No, well, not generic. I'm 99.99999% white, according to my that little DNA thing that you send off for, the Ancestry.com
Oh, that's
thing.
right.
Yeah. So I was hoping mine would be a little more mixed up, but yeah, I came back as about as lily white as you can freaking get, and that was kind of a disappointment. But anyway, so that was a challenge, and we didn't know what we were doing. We just basically went out. I bought you a bunch of like stuffed animals and
Sure.
boxes of candy and stuff. Like, I didn't know what to do, and
I thought that was great.
Well,
I liked it.
And I would say, just like most relationships, we started off really good, and then things got real as far as
we would stop talking for times, and
we would break up and get in fights.
Speaking of culturally, though, I mean, to be fair, your first introduction to my extended family was going to California with me for my grandmother's 70th birthday party.
That's right.
And talk about a giant Mexican birthday party. Wow.
Yeah, that was a cultural experience for this
Southern boy.
this white boy from Mississippi, for sure.
Mariachi bands and
it was a lot of fun.
It was great.
It was great. I think there was probably 4 white people there. I mean, like all white people. Me, your dad, your uncle, and Kirk.
That's
No, Kirk
no, I
wasn't
don't think
there.
Kirk and Lori went.
Yeah. So, anyway, so there was maybe 3 or 4 of us. So it was fun. I'm a people watcher. I like to sit around and watch, and that's exactly kind of what I did. And it was fun. I mean, her grandma at 70 years old got up on the table
and danced.
Now, let's put this in kind of some perspective too. Not a party person. I've never had been. My family was not like that. We were not like celebratory type of folks like that. You know, we didn't get together and do things like that. Pretty conservative, pretty quiet, pretty generic, pretty lily white, you know, pretty boring when it comes to stuff like that. But
Just different.
this was a different experience, and people just having fun, and the food and the drinking and the music and you know, people just having a great time and enjoying it. And watching your grandmother at 70 years old get up on the table and dance was pretty amazing. It's something I will never forget.
My grandmother was a little dynamo.
Now, what is weird is that I actually was there just because my mom was such a controlling type of person,
Yes.
and
It's surprising that she let
it
you
is
go.
surprising that
We
you
look
think
back now and are surprised.
it's like she wouldn't let me go to the ice cream place after church on the Sunday night, but she let me go to California
with my family.
and stay overnight for a couple days.
Yeah.
And that's when we went to Disneyland for
Yeah.
the first time. That's when I
It's
went to
pretty
Disneyland.
amazing.
Yeah. So weird. I don't know. I guess sometimes you don't think parents' logic doesn't really make sense.
But it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we had a great time. I mean, it was fabulous. Met a lot of her family, and they've known me
Since then.
Yeah, they really have. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, but that was fun. That was a good time. And then we, I guess we should probably talk about, well, the first time we broke up.
Well.
I remember it was me. I'm the one that instigated
Right.
it. We'd been fighting or whatever. We were both very insecure and they had some issues, but you know, it was just I don't know. I remember my lame excuse. I think was it this time that I said I woke up and just
I think so. I
didn't
think, yeah.
love anymore or
Didn't
something?
love,
'Cause
right. Because
that wasn't
as
it.
if we knew what love really
didn't know,
meant at
right.
that point in time anyway. But, you know, but also at this point in my life, I was a little smothery. And so instead of just giving anybody space, I couldn't do that. And so that would have probably fixed a multitude of issues at the time.
I liked it to a certain extent, but then it got, like you said, to me, then I would feel like I was being backed into a corner.
Sure.
And you know,
Because you were.
well, it started to become a lot like, to be fair, the way my mother would want to like control where I was going and wanting to know and everything else.
Constantly,
and
right.
And so that kind of, I was liking it to that too, but that was just because I was immature and didn't know how to deal with it.
Draw a line.
Right. And
for you.
our expectations, my expectations of you and your expectations of me were so far off the charts.
Yes.
We started and got too serious.
It's just instant.
Way too fast.
Too serious.
I'm
right.
not saying in a physical way. I'm just saying in an emotional way, because we were both so insecure and certain looking for so at least for me, I was looking for someone.
No, it's true.
I just felt like I needed to be with someone.
And I felt like I needed to know where you were all the time, 24/7, and that's not fair.
Yeah, she doesn't do that to me now. And we've been together
It's
for
better.
it's 30 years. So I mean, actually, being together off and on, not so for like 30
In the beginning,
years.
right?
Yeah, so a long time, but. Yeah, so I remember the first time, and we said that, and I remember that. I don't remember much more about that. I remember I was upset, you were upset, but then the next time that we were to be at church, I remember I saw you, and you were acting fine, like no big deal, and that pissed me off.
I went out of my way to act fine. Of course, you
But
did not know that.
Right, I didn't know that because. Well, hell, I'd never been in any of this before. I had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never broken up with anybody. Okay, I shouldn't say that. Like I said in the first podcast, I had the relationships where you're like, would you be my boyfriend? Would you be my
Right.
girlfriend? Even in like elementary school and junior high, that's as far as it ever got for me because I had no idea. I was too afraid and too insecure. That's just what it boiled down to. But so this first breakup. Well, first off, it was like, and it upset me. Second of all, you not being upset me more.
Upset you more.
I didn't understand that.
Which is funny because if you were the one that in your mind didn't care anymore, you wouldn't care.
But that's
if
true.
I was upset.
But see, that's right.
But,
and that just shows how illogical I was being in my thought process. I mean, it just wasn't.
But I don't know why, but I felt like I needed to not look like I was upset about anything. But
well, I think that comes back from some of your background growing up. Some of that.
It could be.
You're strong, and you didn't show fear like that. You stood in front of. I saw you stand in front of many adults. No fear, at least not on the outside.
I was going to say that's not because I didn't think it.
At least not
I
on the
just
outside.
Didn't want anyone to see it.
Yeah, so at least not on the outside. So, all right. I don't know. I think that's probably a good place to stop.
That's a good place.
That's a good place
That's
to
a good
stop.
place.
So we'll stop there for this time. And remember, if you guys have any stories or any fun things that you would like to share, please go ahead and put those in the comments below. And you can either put like hashtag marriage tips or something like that. That would be wonderful. And that way we can go and we can collect those all together. That would be fabulous. All right. Well, this is the show is like just flying today.
It is flying.
It is flying.
Also keep in mind, as you already know, the Moonshine Safari song is an original song from us, and we're working on some other original music as well. So we hope to share that with you as time goes on.
Oh yeah. Now, if you've listened to, you can go to our website and hear the song Moonshine Safari, and just to know that that's Dina singing. And that's Dina also on the backup vocals, and that's myself on most of the instruments, and our son on the bass and daughter on the piano. So we just kind of put that together, and I know it's not.
It's certainly not professionally
not
done, but
professional
it's something
polished.
that we enjoy
Yeah.
and like doing. So we just hope you guys enjoy it as well.
I had a blast doing it. We had a blast writing it together and putting the music together, and we do that, and we hope to share some more with you. Yes, we're not trying to hide anything here. We're trying to make this into something for us and for our family. So if you guys can help us do that, that'd be great. If you like it, wonderful. If you don't, that's okay too. There's other places that you could go and find stuff that you like, and that's wonderful. That's the great thing about the internet. There's so many things available and options out there. So if you like it, go over and check us out on iTunes, check us out on YouTube, check us out on moonshinesafari.com, all those places. And now that we've done all of the silly plugs, let's get to the Moonshine Safari segment of the week. All right, Moonshine Safari. All right, this week's Moonshine Safari, we're going to be talking, we're back again to the Old Smoky Distillery. That's out of Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Old Smoky, their original White Lightning, okay, or White Lightning. If you guys like country music, there's a great song by George Jones called White Lightning. That's a good one. You should listen to that. The Old Smoky White Lightning, I would say flavor-wise, it's really smooth, like all the Old Smoky White Lightning or the Moonshine. This is not flavored. It does have like a sweet taste, and there is a little burn at the end. It's 100 proof. But what I think would be good for this is you could use this as like a substitute for vodka.
Sure.
Or even rum.
Sure.
And it's a little stronger because it's at 50%.
50, right.
So it's 100 proof, and most vodkas are either going to be like 35 or 40, in that realm. Especially when you're getting the flavor.
But what I like about this is that there's some whiskeys, like some of the big name whiskeys. There's a flavor in there that I don't really care for. I don't find that flavor in the Moonshine style, however you want to call it.
Sure. And that's probably because most of the other whiskeys, if you're talking about like Jack Daniels or Jim Beam or Knob Creek, they're putting their whiskey into barrels that have been charred.
Okay, so that makes sense. Maybe that is the flavor that I don't care for.
And that's the flavor that you don't care for. It's it's the charred wood barrel flavor that you get with the other whiskeys, which give the other whiskeys the color.
Which is also what some people like about.
Yes,
a lot of people like about
like
whiskey.
I love Gentleman Jack. Oh, that is delicious. I love it. I'm not a huge fan of Jim Beam. I'm sorry, just not. I mean, I'll drink it, but it's not like my favorite go-to. But and that's more because I like more of the sour mash type of whiskeys. But this White Lightning is it's clear. It looks like water.
Right.
Okay.
Totally clear.
In my opinion, it has a better flavor than rum. I'm not a huge rum fan.
Especially spiced rum. I don't like.
No, I don't like spiced rum. But even just the Bacardi Light, I think the Old Smoky White Lightning is better. I think it's better than the regular. I'll just say the Smirnoff vodka, the regular vodka, is stronger flavor, more alcohol taste than than White Lightning.
I can see that.
More, and when I say alcohol taste, let me just
kind of that blunt, just very
almost like rubbing alcohol.
Yes.
So I liken it that it's just a really strong alcohol taste. I don't find that the corn whiskey, the White Lightning, has that necessarily.
And it still feeds back into the same idea of why I could prefer it over, like, say, your standard whiskey.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and to be fair, like I said, I love Gentleman Jack, and I love Jack Daniels. But I'll tell you right now, this Moonshine is like, it's like got me.
Really digging it.
It's so good. Really digging it. It really is. And what we're going to try and do, and we've looked it up, but I'm going to try and take some of this Old Smoky White Lightning and infuse some vanilla in it.
Yep.
So we're going to get some vanilla beans.
Kind
And
of
I'll let you
excited
know how
about
this works. Because if you recall last week's Moonshine Safari, we talked about our ultimate favorite drink, the recipe, okay, is the Prescott Punch, right? And that has the Hunch Punch and the Smirnoff Vanilla Vodka and the Coke, all right? So what we were thinking is, why not try and infuse some of the White Lightning with vanilla? Right. And then mix. And I know there are some other companies out there that have vanilla bean or vanilla flavored moonshine. Just the problem is we can't. There's none accessible to us in our area. Right. And I know we're in the Metro Phoenix, Arizona, which is the 5th largest city. But yeah, moonshine's not like. I mean, it's catching on out here, but we'd like to see a lot more of it.
More of it. Yeah.
Like to see a lot more of it. So if any of you distilleries are out there listening. Yeah,
we vanilla
bean. We'd like to try, but we're going to try and infuse some on and we'll let you guys know how that works. So if we could get the vanilla bean, I will say not all mixtures work because coming up in the future podcast, I'm going to tell you about some drinks that didn't work out either.
Didn't pan out.
Didn't work out, and they weren't very good. But this one is good. I think it's good by itself. It's good sipping whiskey. You can just sip it by itself. You can mix it with whatever you like. That's the way I look at it. Treat it like a vodka. Mix it with orange juice. Mix it with cranberry juice. Mix it with whatever you like. It's so versatile.
Cranberry juice goes with everything.
Yeah, it's so versatile. So Moonshine Safari, Old Smoky, White Lightning, and the recipe is you could mix it with whatever you like. Use it like a vodka. I think it's marvelous. Put it in your flask.
Absolutely.
Put
Next
it in
concert.
your flask for your next concert. It's smooth, it's clean, it's got a mild burn, and it's got a sweet taste. It's corn whiskey. That's what it is. Think about if you ever watch like the old Andy Griffith shows and you see
The jugs.
Yeah, the jugs. You see those guys up there, with Otis and all those guys. Drink that. That's what they're drinking.
Right.
That's what they're drinking. It tastes better than Everclear. I'll just tell you that. It's way better than that. So
Reminder though, no driving.
no, never. Our disclaimer always: have a good time, but do it responsibly. Shine responsibly, and that's what we'll say. Shine responsibly.
go.
That's what you do always. Okay. You're not of age. You shouldn't be partaking. And no driving at all, ever.
Under the influence.
Under the influence, ever. Okay? Ever. There's no excuse for that at all. All right, Dina. Well, I think we're going to wrap up the show. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good. Well,
It
thank
flew
you.
by.
It did fly by. We thank you so much for stopping by and sharing your time with us. We really appreciate it. Please remember to check us out on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and at moonshinesafari.com. If you have any comments or suggestions or stories you'd like to share, please send it, put it in the comment section. If you don't want it to be in the comment section, then where can they reach us at an email?
Yes, actually, and I'm trying to think of it. Sorry, I just drew a blank. It's Josh and Dina, so all spelled out: JOSHANDDINAH at moonshinesafari.com.
There you go. So if you don't want to put your story in where everybody else can read it right off the bat, and you want to send it privately, go ahead and send it to Josh and Dina at moonshinesafari.com. And then if we choose your comments or your to focus in the podcast, we'll let you know, and we appreciate that very much. Again, thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a great week and have a wonderful Moonshine Safari. Ciao for now.
See you later.
Hey y'all, welcome to Moonshine Safari. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, as well as check the description for information on our social media sites, as well as our Patreon account to help support our adventures in the Moonshine Wilderness.